Social intelligence is the secret language of success. It's the skill that allows smart people to read others without a word being said. Every glance, every tone, every silence tells a story. But most people miss it. This book will teach you how to understand people deeply, connect effortlessly, and influence naturally. You'll learn the hidden signals that shape every relationship, every deal, every conversation. Stay with me till the end, and make sure to subscribe, because this journey will change how you see people, and how people see you. Chapter 1: Understanding the Hidden Language of People. People rarely say what they truly feel, but they always show it. In every room, in every meeting, in every conversation, there's an invisible language being spoken. A language made of glances, gestures, pauses, and tones. The smart ones don't just listen to words. They read what's underneath. That's social intelligence, the ability to sense what others feel, to see what's unsaid, to understand emotions before they're expressed. It's not magic. It's awareness. It's the art of reading between the lines. When you walk into a room, you can feel the energy before anyone speaks. You can sense who's confident, who's nervous, who's pretending. That awareness is power. Most people spend their whole lives trying to speak better. But the real masters, they learn to listen with their eyes. The way someone folds their arms, the speed of their breath, the tension in their shoulders. These are emotional signals. They reveal mood, attitude, and truth. Someone can say, "I'm fine," but their body whispers, "I'm not." They can smile with their lips, while their eyes tell another story. To understand people deeply, you must stop focusing only on what they say. You must learn to feel their rhythm. Social intelligence begins with presence. When you're fully present, you notice everything. You pick up small cues others ignore. A slight pause before a sentence, a shift in tone mid-conversation, a glance toward the floor when a topic hits too close. These small signals reveal more than hours of talking ever could. People think connection comes from words, but it comes from awareness. When you truly pay attention, people feel it. They relax. They open up, because finally someone sees them. And that's where influence begins. Not in domination, but in understanding. Social intelligence isn't manipulation. It's alignment. It's being emotionally awake enough to guide communication in a way that heals, not harms. The moment you start reading people instead of reacting to them, your world changes. You stop taking things personally. You start seeing patterns. You realize people's reactions aren't always about you. They're about what's happening inside them. Someone who interrupts constantly isn't always rude. They might be anxious. Someone who stays quiet might not be uninterested. They might be overthinking. Socially intelligent people see beyond behavior. They see the emotion driving it. That understanding turns conflict into cooperation. Because when you recognize emotion, you stop fighting symptoms and start addressing causes. To develop this skill, slow down. Observation takes patience. Don't rush to respond. Take a moment to see what's really being said, through expression, tone, or silence. Social intelligence is emotional literacy. It's reading people the way others read words. The first thing to master is tone awareness. Words carry meaning. Tone carries emotion. Two people can say the same sentence, "I'm okay," but one means peace, the other pain. Learn to hear the difference. Next is body awareness. Posture speaks volumes. Someone leaning forward signals curiosity. Someone leaning back signals defense. Hands fidgeting mean nervousness. A jaw tightened means suppressed anger. These are not coincidences. They are messages. You just have to pay attention. And finally, learn the energy of silence. When someone goes quiet, something's happening inside. Silence is communication too. Sometimes it's protection. Sometimes it's processing. Sometimes it's pain. Social intelligence is about creating space for that silence. Not rushing to fill it. Not fearing it. just holding it, because people reveal their truth in stillness. When you develop this skill, you stop guessing what people think. You start knowing. You understand what motivates them, what scares them, what keeps them from being their best. And once you can read others, you can help them grow. That's what makes socially intelligent people magnetic. They make others feel understood. They don't push. They pull. They guide conversations with subtlety. They bring balance into tense rooms. They create peace where confusion used to live. This is why smart people with high social intelligence rise faster. They don't just have knowledge, they have awareness. And awareness is what builds trust. Because when people feel seen, they listen. When they feel understood, they follow. Social intelligence is not a skill you memorize. It's a sensitivity you build. It grows through empathy, humility, and observation. Start noticing patterns. How people greet you, how they sit in meetings, how they respond under pressure. Each behavior tells a story. You can't change what you don't understand. But once you understand, you can communicate differently. You can diffuse tension before it grows. You can motivate without pressure. You can influence without words. That's the silent strength of social intelligence. It's the reason some people walk into a room and everything changes. They don't demand attention. They attract it through awareness, balance, and emotional clarity. To master this art, begin with observation. Before you speak, watch. Before you react, feel. Before you assume, understand. People are books waiting to be read. Some open easily. Some take time. But every single one holds a story. And the smart ones, they don't just read those stories. They honor them. That's the beginning of real connection. That's the foundation of social intelligence. And that's how smart people read others. Not with judgment, but with understanding. Chapter 2. Emotional awareness and the power of observation. The smartest people in the room aren't always the loudest. They're the ones who see more than others notice. They watch quietly. They listen deeply. They observe before they speak. Observation is not passive. It's an active art. A skill that reveals what most people miss. Every human being carries emotional signals. They appear in tone, eyes, hands, rhythm. They tell stories without a single word. Emotional awareness is your ability to read those stories, to feel someone's state without them explaining it. It's what allows you to sense tension in a smile, or peace in silence. Most people listen with their ears. Emotionally intelligent people listen with their presence. They can sense discomfort even behind polite words. They can feel pressure in a handshake. They can notice when someone's energy changes. And that awareness changes everything. Because emotions drive behavior. If you understand the emotion, you understand the person. At work, at home, in friendships. Your success depends on how well you read emotion. Words are often a mask. The emotion is the truth behind the mask. When you develop emotional awareness, you start seeing truth everywhere. You notice when someone's frustration isn't about the task. It's about feeling unheard. You notice when a colleague's confidence is actually defense. You realize that anger often hides fear, and silence often hides exhaustion. This understanding makes you compassionate without losing clarity. It makes you wise without becoming cold. Because emotional awareness doesn't mean absorbing everyone's pain. It means recognizing it without letting it own you. Observation gives you perspective. You stop reacting and start responding. Every moment, people are communicating more through energy than expression. Their words may lie. Their energy never does. Learn to notice small details. Eye movement, tone, pacing. When someone answers quickly, it could mean confidence, or it could mean avoidance. When someone speaks slowly, it could mean thoughtfulness, or it could mean hesitation. Observation is not about judgment. It's about curiosity. You're not labeling people. You're understanding them. The difference between average and exceptional communicators is awareness. Average communicators focus on the message. Exceptional communicators focus on the meaning behind it. Emotional awareness also starts with you. You can't read others clearly if your own emotions blur your vision. When you're angry, everything looks like a threat. When you're anxious, everything feels urgent. When you're calm, you see the world as it truly is. Self-awareness sharpens observation. The calmer your inner world, the clearer your outer world becomes. Emotions are contagious. If you're unaware, you'll absorb others' chaos. If you're aware, you'll balance it. That's what emotionally intelligent people do. They stabilize the room. Observation teaches you timing too. When to speak, when to stay silent, when to move closer, when to give space. Smart communicators don't rush. They wait until emotion settles before they act. Because action taken in awareness always hits deeper. You can't connect if you don't see, and you can't see if you don't slow down. Observation requires stillness. Stillness creates clarity. Next time you're with someone, watch how they breathe when they talk. Notice where they look when they think. Observe how their voice changes when they mention certain people. You'll start to realize emotions move like waves. Sometimes loud, sometimes quiet, but always present. Every emotion carries energy, and energy, when read right, becomes guidance. Social intelligence isn't guessing feelings. It's sensing them accurately, without assuming, without forcing. It's feeling the rhythm of human emotion and responding with empathy. The power of observation also protects you. When you can read emotional shifts, you avoid unnecessary conflict. You see the storm before it hits. You adjust your words before they wound. Emotionally aware people don't suppress emotions. They navigate them. They know when to express, when to step back, and when to simply listen. Because sometimes silence is the most intelligent response. This awareness gives you emotional agility, the ability to move through people's moods without losing your own balance. You can walk through tension and stay calm. You can meet anger with grace. You can face chaos and still sound steady. That's the real strength behind observation. It turns emotion into information. And when you use that information wisely, you communicate with precision. People begin to feel that you get them. You understand what they mean, not just what they say. They start to trust you. They open up. They follow your lead. That's how awareness becomes influence. The secret of reading people isn't about perfection. It's about patience. Every conversation is a window into someone's mind. If you look closely enough, you'll see the patterns, their fears, their habits, their hopes. Observation is empathy in action. It's the quiet discipline of paying attention, without intrusion, without control. And over time, it changes you. You stop seeing people as difficult. You start seeing them as different. You stop reacting to emotion. You start responding to needs. That shift from judgment to understanding is the beginning of mastery. Emotional awareness gives you insight. Observation gives you accuracy. Together they give you power. The power to connect, to lead, and to influence with authenticity. Because reading people isn't about being smarter than them. It's about being more aware of them. And the more aware you are, the easier life becomes. You stop forcing connection. You start flowing with it. You stop chasing approval. You start creating respect. You become that rare person who brings peace wherever you go. Because you understand before you speak, and you observe before you decide. That's emotional awareness. That's the power of observation. And that's how truly smart people read the world around them. Chapter 3. The Psychology of First Impressions. It takes only a few seconds to be judged. Before you speak, before you smile, before you even sit, a decision has already been made about you. That's the power of first impressions. They form fast. They last long. And they often define everything that follows. Social intelligence begins here, in the awareness that perception is formed faster than communication. People don't wait to understand you. They assume. They read your energy, your posture, your tone. They build a story before you ever speak. And most of the time, that story stays. Your brain does it too. It scans faces, tones, and gestures for safety or threat. In less than a second, it decides, can I trust this person? Do I respect them? Do I feel at ease? That instant judgment is ancient. It comes from survival instincts. In the wild, reading faces fast meant living longer. At work, it means reading people wisely. First impressions are not always accurate, but they're powerful enough to shape your reputation. That's why socially intelligent people master the art of the first moment. They don't fake confidence. They project calm. They understand that how you show up matters more than what you say first. Your energy enters the room before you do. It's in the rhythm of your walk, the focus in your eyes, the openness in your posture, the stillness in your tone. Confidence is not arrogance. It's quiet certainty, and people can feel it. When you enter a space, you're broadcasting messages silently. Your clothes, your gestures, your breathing, they all speak before your words. The trick is alignment. When your energy, words, and presence align, people sense authenticity. Authenticity is magnetic. It draws trust instantly. But when your body says one thing and your words say another, people feel tension. They might not know why, but they'll pull away. That's why first impressions are emotional, not logical. People don't remember what you wore. They remember how they felt around you. If they felt safe, they trust you. If they felt judged, they avoid you. If they felt inspired, they follow you. Social intelligence gives you control over this emotional imprint. It teaches you to manage your energy, to communicate peace even before you speak. Small details matter. Your handshake, your eye contact, your smile, not the fake one, but the genuine one that starts in the eyes. The real smile signals warmth and safety. A forced one signals need or insecurity. People know the difference, even if they can't explain it. The psychology behind first impressions is simple. The brain is always scanning for emotional truth. When it senses congruence, you feel safe. When it senses contradiction, you feel uneasy. Smart communicators make sure their presence tells the same story as their words. They use tone carefully. They use silence intentionally. They maintain posture that reflects balance, not defense. Because posture is memory. It tells people whether you're confident or guarded. Stand tall, not stiff. Relax your shoulders. Stay open. That openness invites conversation. The power of observation also works both ways. As you're being read, you're also reading others. When you meet someone new, pay attention to their nonverbal signals. Are their movements relaxed or restless? Are their eyes direct or drifting? Is their voice grounded or tense? You'll learn more in the first 30 seconds than in 30 minutes of talking. People reveal their comfort through their body language. They reveal their insecurity through their rhythm. Socially intelligent people pick up those patterns instantly. They adjust their energy accordingly. If the person feels anxious, they speak slower. If the person feels dominant, they stay calm and steady. If the person feels distant, they create warmth through tone. It's not manipulation. It's emotional alignment. You're meeting people where they are, not forcing them where you are. That's how connection happens fast. First impressions can't always be changed, but they can be reshaped over time through consistency. If someone misjudges you, don't rush to prove them wrong. Stay grounded. Consistency breaks assumptions faster than explanation. Show up with reliability. Speak with integrity. Keep your tone calm, your actions clean. Eventually, people rewrite their story about you, because nothing destroys false impressions like time spent in truth. Social intelligence means knowing that every moment creates perception. You don't have to perform. You just have to be intentional. How you enter a room, how you greet someone, how you listen, how you make eye contact when others speak. Each action becomes part of your communication identity. People remember presence more than presentation. Be kind, but firm. Be relaxed, but alert. Be humble, but confident. That balance is what makes your first impression timeless. Once you master this psychology, you stop trying to impress people. You start connecting with them. Because communication is not performance, it's presence. And when your presence feels real, people sense it immediately. You don't need fancy words or dramatic gestures. You just need emotional alignment. Your inner calm matching your outer expression. That's what makes people trust you without explanation. That's what makes them remember you long after you've left the room. The smartest communicators understand this truth. Every interaction is a silent test. The question is always the same. Can I trust this person? Your tone answers it. Your eyes confirm it. Your energy seals it. That's the psychology of first impressions. It's not about being perfect. It's about being present. So when you meet someone new, don't rush to speak. Just observe. Smile softly. Listen deeply. Align your words with your calm. Let your presence do the talking. Because that's what truly smart people do. They read others effortlessly, but they also make sure they're easy to read. Chapter 4. Building Genuine Connections. Real connection isn't about knowing people. It's about understanding them. In a world full of noise, connection has become rare. People talk more than ever, but feel understood less than ever. Everyone wants to be seen, but few know how to truly see. That's where social intelligence changes everything. To build genuine connections, you must learn to connect beyond words, through presence, attention, and emotional honesty. People can sense your intention faster than your words. If you listen to reply, they close. If you listen to understand, they open. Genuine connection begins when you stop trying to impress and start trying to understand. It's not built on performance. It's built on presence. When you're with someone, be fully there. Not halfway, not distracted, not waiting for your turn to speak. Because presence is the purest form of respect. When you give someone your full attention, you give them value. You tell them, you matter right now. That simple energy can turn a shallow conversation into a meaningful connection. The most emotionally intelligent people don't talk to be heard. They talk to connect. Their goal is not to win. It's to understand. They don't seek control. They seek alignment. They speak less, but their words go deeper. Because connection isn't about quantity. It's about quality. When you meet someone, you're meeting a lifetime of memories. Their fears, their past, their defenses. Everything speaks through their behavior. Understanding this changes how you relate to people. You stop judging their reactions. You start reading their emotions. You realize the angry colleague isn't rude. He's insecure. The quiet friend isn't disinterested. She's cautious. The loud one isn't arrogant. He's trying to be seen. That awareness builds empathy, and empathy builds connection. Because when people feel understood, they trust you. And trust is the soil where real connection grows. Connection isn't built in big moments. It's built in small, consistent acts of care. When you remember someone's name. When you ask how they really feel. When you notice the tiredness in their voice. That's what people remember. Not your words, but your warmth. The emotionally intelligent person knows. You don't need to fix people. You just need to hear them. Listening deeply is an act of love. And love doesn't always mean agreement. Sometimes it means patience. The more patient you are with people, the more they reveal themselves. Connection is not forced. It unfolds. And it unfolds only when safety exists. When people feel safe, they open their hearts. When they feel judged, they hide. That's why socially intelligent people communicate with compassion. They know how to speak the truth kindly. They know how to correct without crushing. They know how to lead without controlling. Because real connection isn't about domination. It's about balance. To build it, you must give and receive equally. Give your honesty, but also your openness. Give your feedback, but also your gratitude. Give your perspective, but also your patience. That's how mutual trust forms. Connection isn't a technique, it's a habit of heart. It's developed when you care enough to notice, when you look beyond behavior and see emotion, when you listen without preparing an answer, when you choose curiosity over assumption. The greatest connectors in life aren't extroverts. They're observers. They make people feel seen. They remember details. They make you feel like you matter, even in a room full of others. That's the quiet magic of social intelligence. It transforms ordinary interactions into emotional experiences, because at the core of every human being is the same need to be known, not just noticed. To build genuine connections, you must lead with authenticity. Pretending creates distance. Honesty builds bridges. When you speak from truth, you give others permission to do the same. And the moment two people drop their masks, real connection begins. Sometimes it happens in a single conversation. Sometimes it takes time. But every true connection has one thing in common: emotional honesty. That's why emotional awareness is inseparable from connection. You can't fake empathy. You can't act genuine. You either care or you don't. The best communicators care first, speak later. They don't need to fill silence. They honor it. Because silence often holds more meaning than speech. In silence, people feel safe enough to show their truth. And in that truth, connection deepens. Connection also means giving space when needed. Not every problem needs your presence. Sometimes people just need your patience. Being socially intelligent means knowing when to hold on and when to step back. Sometimes care is quiet. Sometimes love is distance. You connect not by staying close, but by staying kind. Every genuine relationship is built on emotional awareness. When you understand what others need emotionally, you give with accuracy. You know when to encourage, when to challenge, when to comfort, when to just listen. This is how emotional connection becomes spiritual. It's no longer about surface talk. It's about energy exchange. You leave people lighter than you found them. That's what true connection feels like. It doesn't drain. It restores. People who master this never struggle to build relationships because they know the secret. Connection isn't about trying harder. It's about being real. So slow down. Look people in the eyes. Listen without waiting. Feel before you respond. Bring empathy where others bring ego. Bring calm where others bring chaos. Bring truth where others bring noise. And slowly, you'll start to see people don't connect with perfection. They connect with presence. You don't need to be impressive to be memorable. You just need to be human. That's how genuine connection is built. Not through performance, but through peace. Not through technique, but through truth. And when you master that, you stop talking to people and start speaking to their soul. Chapter 5. Reading the unspoken signals. Words tell stories, but silence tells the truth. Every person you meet speaks two languages, the one they use with words, and the one they never speak aloud. That second language, the unspoken one, is where real understanding begins. You can fake words, you can rehearse tone, but the body never lies. It reveals everything: fear, interest, boredom, excitement, doubt, affection. Social intelligence is the ability to read those hidden signs, the pauses, the micro-expressions, the tiny shifts that reveal what someone truly feels. Every day, people say one thing and mean another. They smile when they're tired. They agree when they're anxious. They hide pain behind laughter, and most of the world never notices. But those who do, they hold quiet power. Because when you can read what others hide, you understand what they need. Reading unspoken signals begins with slowing down. Observation demands stillness. If you're too busy talking, you'll miss what's being said in silence. The eyes speak first. They reveal emotion before words can shape it. A flicker of surprise, a momentary drop, a glance that lingers too long. The eyes always tell the truth. Someone can say, "I'm fine," but their eyes soften with exhaustion. Someone can say, "I agree," but their eyes turn away with resistance. Socially intelligent people don't ignore these contradictions. They see them, gently, without judgment. Because reading others is not about catching lies. It's about catching feelings. You're not trying to expose. You're trying to understand. The next signal is the body's rhythm. Movement reveals mood. When someone moves with ease, they're open. When they sit stiff, they're guarded. When they lean forward, they're curious. When they cross their arms, they're protecting something. No gesture exists without meaning. The key is to notice patterns. Crossed arms once might mean comfort. Crossed arms while discussing a sensitive topic, that means defense. Context creates clarity. That's what separates awareness from assumption. To read the unspoken, you must also listen to tone. Tone is emotion in sound. It's the heartbeat of language. The same words can comfort or depending on tone. A soft voice invites trust. A rushed voice hides anxiety. A flat tone signals distance. A trembling one carries fear. Most people hear tone but don't feel it. The socially intelligent person does both. They don't just react to words. They respond to emotion. When you respond to emotion instead of argument, conflict disappears faster. Because most fights aren't about facts. They're about feelings. Unspoken signals appear everywhere. In posture, pacing, even breathing. When someone's breathing gets shallow, they're stressed. When it slows, they're relaxed. The body keeps score of the mind. When someone's heart is heavy, you can see it in their shoulders. When they feel proud, you can hear it in their voice. The body speaks even when the mouth doesn't. Socially intelligent people live tuned to this frequency. They walk into a room and feel tension before anyone speaks. They can sense excitement from the hum of movement, or sadness from the silence between voices. This awareness gives them an invisible advantage. Because communication isn't just about sending messages, it's about sensing them. The smartest communicators read the air, not just the words. If a room feels cold, they warm it with tone. If a group feels tense, they lighten it with calm. If a person feels unseen, they meet their eyes and hold space. That's mastery. To sense what's missing and supply it through presence. You don't need to say much. You just need to be aware. And awareness is magnetic. People feel drawn to those who make them feel understood, even without long conversations. That's why leaders, mentors, and emotionally mature people often speak less, but connect more. They don't rush. They don't force. They don't pretend. They stay observant. They stay calm. They stay human. When you start reading the unspoken, you realize that most communication happens beneath words. An honest pause, a quiet sigh, a slight tremor in the hand, a long exhale before speaking. These are emotional fingerprints. You just need to look. Sometimes silence screams louder than words. Sometimes stillness holds more truth than movement. When someone suddenly grows quiet, it's not always peace. It might be withdrawal. When someone laughs too quickly, it might be hiding nervousness. Nothing human happens without meaning. Reading the unspoken is emotional literacy. It's learning to decode energy instead of language. But to do that, you must first regulate your own energy. Because when your mind is loud, you can't hear others clearly. Socially intelligent people maintain inner calm so they can feel the world around them accurately. They don't interpret everything as personal. They don't project their emotions onto others. They observe with neutrality. That neutrality gives clarity. To develop this skill, practice simple awareness. When you talk to someone, watch how they move when you mention certain topics. Notice how they shift when you get closer. Observe how they breathe when they're comfortable versus stressed. Keep your focus light, not analytical, not intrusive. Curiosity, not control. People reveal truth to those who feel safe. If you watch them with empathy, they stay open. If you watch them with judgment, they shut down. Your intention determines your insight. When you look to understand, you'll see things no one else sees. That's how socially intelligent people gain trust quickly. They make others feel seen, not studied, because everyone craves to be understood, but no one wants to feel inspected. Reading unspoken signals isn't about precision. It's about perception. You'll never decode every gesture perfectly, but you can feel energy accurately. A subtle shift in tone, a faster blink, a micro frown, a deep inhale before truth. These are not accidents. They are emotional signals, and once you begin to see them, you start communicating beyond language. You begin to feel people, not just hear them. You sense when they need reassurance. You sense when they're ready to share. You sense when it's time to be silent. That sensitivity is what separates ordinary talkers from exceptional communicators. Social intelligence doesn't require words. It requires awareness. It's the art of reading between lines, feeling between pauses, and hearing beyond sound. And once you develop it, you'll never see people the same way again. You'll start noticing what others miss. The tremor behind confidence, the pain behind humor, the longing behind pride. And instead of reacting, you'll respond with wisdom. You'll know when to comfort, when to challenge, and when to simply stay quiet. Because understanding the unspoken isn't about talking better, it's about feeling deeper. And that's the heart of true communication. Chapter 6: Emotional Boundaries and Healthy Communication. Kind people often suffer the most, not because they care too much, but because they don't know where to stop. They give, they listen, they absorb. They carry everyone's emotions until they forget their own. And, in trying to understand others, they lose themselves. That's where emotional boundaries begin. Social intelligence is not just about reading people. It's about protecting your peace while doing it. You can understand someone deeply and still say no with kindness. You can care without carrying. You can love without losing yourself. Boundaries are not walls. They're fences with gates. They let in what nourishes you and keep out what drains you. Without them, empathy becomes exhaustion. Compassion becomes chaos. Every emotionally intelligent person learns this lesson. You can't pour from an empty cup. Healthy communication starts when you protect that cup. Because if you constantly absorb everyone's emotions, you'll start mistaking their pain for your purpose. You'll start reacting to feelings that aren't even yours. Boundaries are not selfish. They're survival. They preserve your clarity, your focus, your peace. When you know your limits, you communicate with balance, not burnout. The smartest people in the room aren't the ones who talk most. They're the ones who know when to stop. They sense when a conversation is no longer helping, when listening turns into emotional labor, when empathy crosses into overextension. Social intelligence is emotional awareness with discipline. It teaches you when to connect and when to detach. Because not every problem is yours to solve. Not every story is yours to carry. Not every emotion belongs in your space. You can be kind without being consumed. Boundaries don't close connection. They protect its quality. When you know your limits, you communicate from clarity, not fatigue. That's why people with strong emotional boundaries don't explode. They express. They don't suppress. They structure. Their peace comes from control, not from silence. To build this, start by recognizing your triggers. Notice the moments when conversations leave you drained. Notice the people whose words live in your head after they leave. Those are emotional leaks. They show you where your boundaries are weak. Fixing that doesn't mean you care less. It means you're caring wisely. Say no to protect your yes. Say less to preserve your energy. Boundaries make your presence stronger, your words clearer, your empathy cleaner. Because empathy without limits turns toxic fast. When you take on too much emotion, you stop seeing people clearly. You start reacting through exhaustion. That's when resentment replaces compassion. That's when burnout replaces care. Emotionally intelligent communication means knowing how to care without collapsing. It means listening without losing yourself, helping without healing for others, being there without disappearing inside their storm. True empathy has space. It breathes. It respects both sides. When you communicate with healthy boundaries, you create balance for you and for them. Boundaries also make honesty easier. When you feel safe, you speak truth. When you feel overwhelmed, you avoid it. That's why boundaries are the foundation of authentic communication. They let you say, "I care about you, but I can't take this on right now." They let you say, "I want to help, but I need to rest first." They let you say, "I love you, but I also need space." These are not acts of distance. They're acts of emotional maturity. Socially intelligent people know that love without balance becomes dependence, and communication without boundaries becomes chaos. When you start setting limits, some people will resist. They're used to your constant availability. They confuse your silence with rejection. But stay firm. Consistency teaches others how to treat you. Boundaries are not announced once. They're practiced daily. Every time you respect your peace, you strengthen your self-respect. And every time you say no without guilt, you teach others that your energy is valuable. Emotionally healthy communication sounds calm, not cold. It's firm, not harsh. It doesn't over-explain. It doesn't beg for understanding. It stands in quiet confidence, because true strength doesn't shout. It simply exists. Boundaries also help you manage empathy wisely. Empathy is a gift, but like any gift, it needs direction. Don't let it flow everywhere. Let it flow where it's needed. Otherwise, your emotional energy spreads too thin, and you end up giving love where you should have given space. Balance empathy with logic. Balance care with clarity. Ask yourself, is this mine to fix? Is this my responsibility to carry? If not, you can still care from a distance. Emotional boundaries create emotional freedom. They protect your identity, your focus, your mental peace. You can't build deep connections without clear lines, because relationships built on endless giving always collapse under silent resentment. Socially intelligent people don't wait until they're angry to set boundaries. They set them before anger begins. They communicate clearly, early, and kindly. They understand that saying no is not rejection, it's clarity. Boundaries don't end love. They preserve it. They make space for kindness to grow, without turning into exhaustion. Healthy communication is balanced communication. It respects emotion but follows reason. It listens deeply but acts wisely. When you set boundaries, you stop being reactive. You start being intentional. You speak because you choose to, not because you feel forced to. That's how emotional maturity feels. Peaceful, steady, free. In the end, boundaries are self-respect in action. They show that you value your energy, your time, and your peace. And when people see you respecting yourself, they start respecting you too. That's what emotionally intelligent communication creates. Clarity without cruelty, compassion without chaos. Because reading others is half the equation. Protecting your peace is the other half. And when you balance both, you don't just understand people, you understand yourself. That's where real strength begins. That's where healthy connection lives. And that's how smart people stay kind, without losing their calm. Chapter 7. The Art of Emotional Detachment. To stay calm in chaos. That's mastery. To care deeply without breaking, that's strength. Emotional detachment is not coldness. It's clarity. It's not about feeling less. It's about feeling wisely. When you care too much without control, you drown in the emotions of others. But when you learn detachment, you begin to float, calm, aware, untouchable. People often confuse detachment with indifference, but indifference is apathy. Detachment is awareness. Indifference says, I don't care. Detachment says, I care, but I choose peace. That's the difference between emotional chaos and emotional mastery. Social intelligence teaches you how to connect without clinging, to empathize without absorbing, to love without losing yourself. Because every relationship, personal or professional, will test your emotional boundaries. There will be people who project pain, people who live in conflict, people who drain your energy just by existing near you. If you don't learn detachment, their storm becomes your weather. You start reacting to every word, absorbing every mood, carrying every emotion that isn't yours, and slowly, you lose your balance. Detachment is the art of standing in the middle of the storm and still seeing the sky. It's the ability to observe without reacting, to listen without internalizing, to care without collapsing. When you master this, you stop being emotionally exhausted. You stop confusing kindness with surrender. Because real maturity is not about always being available. It's about knowing when to step back. Some people heal through your presence. Others only use it to pour their pain. You have to know the difference. Emotionally intelligent people can see emotion without becoming it. They can walk into tension and stay centered. They can hear criticism and not take it personally. They can love fully and still let go when it's time. That's emotional detachment. The freedom to remain stable, even when others are unstable. It doesn't mean you ignore feelings. It means you manage them. When someone's angry, you don't mirror the anger. You mirror the calm. When someone panics, you don't absorb their fear. You offer steadiness. You become the anchor in other people's waves. That's what makes socially intelligent people magnetic. They bring peace where others bring pressure. But detachment takes practice. The mind loves to attach. It wants control, validation, attention. It wants to fix, to prove, to be accepted. You have to train it to let go. Because when you hold on to everything, you hold on to pain. And when you let go, you don't lose. You free yourself to see things clearly. Detachment doesn't mean silence. It means response with awareness. You speak when needed. You step away when not. You stay aware that not every emotion deserves your energy. Every time you pause before reacting, you strengthen your control. You tell your emotions, I hear you, but I decide. That's inner power. Emotionally detached people don't suppress emotion. They understand it. They feel it fully, but they don't let it steer the wheel. Because emotion should inform your choices, not dictate them. Detachment gives you the space to think clearly, to choose peace over impulse. When you detach, you begin to see people as they are, not as your emotions paint them. You stop overvaluing approval. You stop chasing closure from the wrong people. You stop explaining your peace to those who thrive in chaos. You realize, not everyone deserves access to your emotional world. That's when your communication changes. You start listening with compassion, but responding with precision. You start loving people with awareness, not desperation. You begin to understand that helping everyone is not kindness, it's distraction. You can't rescue those who choose to stay drowning. Sometimes the most powerful act of love is letting someone face their own storm. That's detachment, to let go without bitterness, to stay kind without staying stuck. In communication, detachment gives you emotional neutrality. You stop reacting from ego and start responding from clarity. You understand tone instead of taking it personally. You recognize projection instead of internalizing blame. You see emotional manipulation clearly and choose not to engage. That's how smart people stay calm while others fall apart. They don't fight every misunderstanding. They don't chase every explanation. They let time reveal what words can't fix. Because not everything needs your energy. Peace is not found in control. It's found in letting go. When you detach, you don't lose connection. You gain control. You communicate without over-explaining. You love without overextending. You lead without losing sleep. The emotionally detached person isn't cold, they're centered. They don't build walls, they build filters. They don't avoid emotion, they manage energy. Because energy is sacred. Where it flows, life grows. Where it's wasted, peace dies. That's why detachment is not avoidance. It's awareness in motion. You can walk into conflict and stay composed. You can witness chaos and stay clear. You can care deeply without being consumed. That's power. The kind that's quiet but unshakable. Detachment makes your communication sharper. You hear what's meant, not just what's said. You respond with timing, not tension. You speak truth gently, without emotional noise. People start trusting your words, because they come from calm, not reaction. When you speak from detachment, your voice carries authority, not from dominance, but from balance. You don't argue for validation. You express for understanding. And when you stop trying to win every conversation, you start mastering every interaction. The most powerful communicators aren't loud. They are grounded. They can say less and mean more. They can walk away without guilt. They can love without fear. Because they know detachment doesn't kill emotion. It purifies it. When you stop clinging, you start seeing. When you stop forcing, you start flowing. And in that flow, you find freedom. Freedom from chaos. Freedom from overthinking. Freedom from emotional exhaustion. That's when your empathy becomes clean, your focus becomes sharp, and your presence becomes peaceful. That's the art of emotional detachment, to care deeply, but carry lightly. To be available, but not consumed. To listen, but not lose yourself. To love, but not depend. That's how emotionally intelligent people stay steady in a world that never stops shaking. They understand that peace isn't found in controlling others. It's found in mastering yourself. And when you master detachment, you master life. Chapter 8. The Subtle Power of Empathy. Empathy is not emotion. It's understanding in motion. It's the quiet ability to step into someone else's world, to feel their heartbeat without losing your own rhythm. Empathy is not weakness. It's wisdom wrapped in kindness. It doesn't shout. It listens. It doesn't demand. It understands. In a world that teaches people to compete, empathy teaches you to connect. When you learn to truly see people, to sense their struggles without judgment, you start to build bridges where others build walls. That's the subtle power of empathy. It moves without noise, influences without force, and heals without recognition. Social intelligence begins with awareness, but it reaches its highest form through empathy. Because knowledge helps you understand people. Empathy helps you feel them. When you combine both, you stop guessing. You start knowing. Empathy doesn't mean agreeing with everyone. It means respecting their reality, even when it's different from yours. It's being strong enough to say, I see where you're coming from, without losing sight of your own truth. Empathy is balance between heart and mind, between care and clarity. It's what makes communication human again. When you speak with empathy, you stop trying to win conversations. You start trying to connect. Because people don't need you to fix them. They just need to feel heard. Empathy gives others that feeling, that they're seen, that they matter, that they belong. And when people feel seen, they stop defending. They start opening. That's where change begins. Not through argument, but through understanding. Every person you meet carries invisible pain. You can't always see it, but you can sense it if you listen deeper than words. That's what socially intelligent people do. They hear what isn't said. They notice what's avoided. They read silence as clearly as speech. And they respond not with logic, but with humanity. Empathy turns cold communication into connection. It turns authority into trust. It turns strangers into allies. But empathy also needs boundaries. because without balance, empathy becomes exhaustion. You cannot save everyone. You cannot carry every burden. You cannot be everyone's healer. Empathy with boundaries creates clarity. Empathy without boundaries creates chaos. The key is emotional awareness, to feel what others feel, without losing the center of your own peace. It's the difference between holding someone's hand and taking on their entire weight. When you master empathy, you can stand beside pain without drowning in it. You can listen to anger without absorbing it. You can hear someone's story without turning it into your identity. That's emotional intelligence in action. The ability to care deeply and still remain whole. Empathy also changes how you lead. When you lead with empathy, you lead with trust. You stop managing people like tasks. You start understanding them as humans. You notice when a team member is quiet, not because they're lazy, but because they're overwhelmed. You sense when tension isn't about work, but about unseen struggle. Empathetic leadership creates loyalty, because people never forget how you made them feel, and empathy makes them feel valued. But empathy is not soft. It's strategic. When you understand people's emotions, you can guide them without force. You can influence without pressure. You can persuade without manipulation, because you speak to what they feel, not just what they hear. That's the hidden strength of empathy. It works quietly, but it works deeply. The emotionally intelligent communicator uses empathy like light, not to blind, but to illuminate. They bring clarity to confusion, comfort to conflict, and calm to chaos. Empathy doesn't always require words. Sometimes it's just presence, a quiet nod, a patient silence, a steady gaze that says, "I'm here." In those moments, people don't remember what you said. They remember what you made them feel. Because empathy is energy. It flows through tone, through eyes, through space. And when people feel safe in your energy, they trust your words automatically. That's why socially intelligent people create peace wherever they go. Their empathy speaks before their mouth does. They walk into a room, and others feel at ease. That's emotional presence, the highest form of empathy. Empathy also strengthens communication during conflict. When emotions rise, logic fades. Empathy restores balance. It allows you to listen without defending, to understand without surrendering. It's not about who's right. It's about what's real. When someone feels hurt, they don't need a lesson. They need acknowledgement. Empathy gives that acknowledgement. It says, "I hear your pain. I understand your point. You don't have to fix everything." Sometimes the greatest healing comes from simply being there. That's why empathy is not loud. It's silent strength. It's the ability to hold someone's storm without adding to it. In relationships, empathy is the glue. It holds two different worlds together through understanding. Without empathy, love feels controlling. With empathy, love feels safe. Without empathy, communication becomes reaction. With empathy, it becomes connection. When you understand someone's feelings, you stop competing for attention. You start creating harmony. Empathy builds bridges across differences. It connects cultures, generations, and hearts. It dissolves tension. It humanizes disagreement. It reminds everyone, we're all just people, trying to be understood. Empathy is not taught in school. It's learned in silence, in observation, in patience. It's the art of listening without agenda, feeling without control, helping without pride. That's why it's subtle. It's not seen, but it's always felt. And in a world that moves fast, the one who feels slow connects deep. Because empathy is timeless. It's the invisible thread that holds communication together. It's the quiet grace that transforms interactions into understanding. You can learn all the techniques, read all the books, study all the psychology, but without empathy, your words will always fall flat. Empathy is what gives communication a heartbeat. It turns words into warmth. It turns presence into peace. That's the subtle power of empathy. It doesn't make you smarter, it makes you human. And in the end, that's the intelligence that matters most. Chapter 9. Influence through understanding. Real influence is quiet. It doesn't shout. It doesn't push. It flows gently, powerfully, and naturally. Influence built on control fades fast. Influence built on understanding lasts forever. Because people don't follow authority, they follow alignment. They don't respond to orders. They respond to emotion. When you understand people, you earn their trust. And once you have trust, you have influence. Understanding is the foundation of every great communicator, every great leader, every great relationship. It's not about knowing what to say. It's about knowing what people need to hear. Social intelligence gives you that insight. It allows you to read beyond words, to sense intention, to see emotion, to recognize motivation. And when you understand someone's internal world, you can guide their external actions. That's not manipulation. That's empathy in motion. You're not forcing anyone. You're aligning with them. True influence is emotional resonance. It's when your energy, your tone, and your presence connect so deeply that people begin to trust your direction without questioning your intent. People don't remember facts. They remember how you made them feel. And when someone feels understood, they let you in. They open their mind. They listen with heart. That's where influence begins. You can't lead anyone you don't understand. You can't inspire anyone you don't respect. You can't persuade anyone you don't empathize with. Understanding turns walls into windows. It softens defenses. It creates connection where there used to be competition. When people feel misunderstood, they resist. When they feel understood, they relax. That's human nature. So if you want influence, don't start by talking. Start by listening. Listen not just to words, but to what's behind them. When someone complains, they're not always seeking a solution. They might be seeking validation. When someone argues, they might not be angry at you. They might be hurting somewhere else. Understanding reveals what emotion is driving behavior. And once you know that, you can respond with precision. That's the difference between manipulation and mastery. Manipulation reacts to emotion for gain. Mastery recognizes emotion for guidance. Influence through understanding is built on awareness. You see people clearly, so you respond effectively. You don't push. You invite. You don't command. You connect. People don't follow your words. They follow your emotional tone. The calm voice in a tense room leads. The steady presence in chaos influences. The one who listens the deepest always has the most power, because people feel safe around understanding. And safety is the key to influence. You don't need titles or status to influence others. You need understanding. You can change a person's attitude by changing how they feel in your presence. If you make people feel heard, they become receptive. If you make them feel judged, they become defensive. So the smartest communicators focus not on convincing, but on connecting. They don't say, "You're wrong." They say, "I see where you're coming from." They don't push ideas. They plant them gently. They don't chase agreement. They create understanding. Because once someone feels understood, they naturally begin to understand you too. That's reciprocity in emotion. The same law that governs kindness governs influence. Give understanding, and you receive trust. Give trust, and you gain respect. Give respect, and your words begin to carry weight. Understanding others doesn't mean losing your voice. It means using your voice wisely. You don't have to dominate to direct. You don't have to control to lead. You just have to understand before you act. Influence through understanding is subtle. It's almost invisible, but its results are undeniable. Think of the people you admire most. They don't speak over others. They speak into others. They don't impose power. They inspire trust. They don't demand change. They embody it. That's what makes their presence persuasive. Not their position, but their understanding. Socially intelligent people understand emotional rhythm. They know when to speak and when to stay silent. They sense when a conversation needs warmth and when it needs space. They adjust their energy, not their integrity. Because influence is not about changing who you are. It's about understanding who they are. Every person you meet has a story, a set of fears, hopes, and beliefs shaping their reactions. When you read that story, you stop arguing with people's behavior and start connecting with their reality. That's how influence grows quietly. It doesn't chase. It attracts. People are drawn to those who make them feel seen. They listen to those who listen to them. They follow those who understand them. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. When people sense your authenticity, they open their trust. And when trust opens, influence flows. It's not what you say, it's who you are while you say it. Calm minds influence tense ones. Peaceful hearts lead angry ones. Grounded souls inspire lost ones. That's emotional alignment, the hidden law of influence. The world is full of people trying to prove a point, but the ones who make a difference are the ones who seek to understand. They don't fight for attention. They earn it through empathy. They don't argue for control. They gain it through respect. They don't rush to be heard. They create space for others to speak. And when they finally do speak, their words land with weight. Because true influence doesn't come from volume. It comes from vibration, from the calm frequency of understanding. Influence through understanding is timeless. It works in families, in friendships, in leadership, in love. It's the art of touching hearts without pressure, guiding minds without manipulation, inspiring change without force. That's the highest level of social intelligence, when you no longer need to convince, because your understanding itself convinces. Understanding makes your presence persuasive, your silence powerful, your kindness unforgettable. Because in a world desperate to be right, the one who seeks to understand always stands out. That's the person others follow, not because they have to, but because they want to. And that's real influence. Not power over people, but connection with people. That's how you move hearts, shape behavior, and change lives. Not through domination, but through understanding. Chapter 10. The Language of Trust. Trust is the foundation of every human connection. Without it, no word feels safe. No relationship feels steady. No communication truly works. You can have knowledge. You can have confidence. You can even have charm. But if people don't trust you, nothing lasts. Trust is not built through talking more. It's built through consistency. It's not built through promises. It's built through proof. It's not built in moments. It's built in patterns. People don't trust what they hear. They trust what they feel. And feelings never lie. The language of trust is silent. It's carried in tone, in honesty, in presence. It's in the calm way you speak when others lose control. It's in the way you listen without judgment. It's in the way your energy says, you can be yourself here. That's what real trust feels like. Safety without words. Social intelligence teaches you that trust isn't a demand. It's an invitation. You can't force people to trust you. You earn it. You nurture it. You protect it. And once broken, and you rebuild it, not through apologies, but through action. Because trust, once cracked, never heals through words alone. It heals through time, through repetition, through truth. The most trustworthy people are not perfect. They're consistent. You always know who they are, even when you don't agree with them. They don't shift with approval. They don't perform for attention. They stay true, quietly, steadily, sincerely. And that stability is what makes people feel safe. Trust is emotional currency. The more you invest it wisely, the richer your relationships become. But when it's spent carelessly, everything fragile breaks. That's why the language of trust begins with self-trust. You can't make others believe you if you don't believe yourself. You can't make others feel safe if you don't feel grounded inside. Trust starts inward before it flows outward. When you speak from authenticity, your words carry weight. When you live by integrity, your silence speaks for you. People sense it, even if they can't explain why. They feel something stable in your presence, something honest, something unshakable. That's the energy of trust. Trust is emotional alignment between words and actions. When you say one thing and do another, people notice. Even if they forgive, they remember. That's why trust is fragile, because it's emotional, not logical. It grows slowly but breaks fast. You can't rebuild it by explaining. You rebuild it by showing up, again and again, until doubt becomes faith once more. Socially intelligent people understand that every interaction affects trust. How you respond in small moments builds or breaks it. When you keep secrets that aren't yours to tell, trust grows. When you gossip, it dies. When you admit your mistakes, trust deepens. When you blame others, it thins. Every act of honesty adds a brick. Every act of deception removes one. That's how emotional architecture works. Trust also depends on how you handle emotion. When someone is vulnerable with you, they're offering their heart. If you protect it, you become safe. If you misuse it, you become danger. That's the sacred nature of trust. It's always emotional. Logic may explain it, but emotion sustains it. In communication, trust is built through emotional reliability. When you say you'll listen, listen fully. When you promise honesty, tell the truth gently. When you say you care, show it in your actions. Because trust isn't told, it's felt. People may forget your exact words, but they'll never forget your consistency. The emotionally intelligent communicator uses trust as their compass. They never weaponize truth. They never exploit vulnerability. They never fake empathy. They understand that once trust is gone, words lose their power. But when trust exists, words need very little power, because presence does the rest. Trust also shapes leadership. A leader without trust is a commander. A leader with trust is a guide. People don't follow out of fear for long. They follow out of faith. Trust turns authority into influence. It turns management into mentorship. When people trust you, you don't need to push. They move with you willingly, because trust feels like gravity, invisible but powerful. You can't see it, but everything falls in place when it's there. The language of trust has no ego. It doesn't seek to impress. It seeks to reassure. It doesn't crave attention. It creates comfort. It doesn't control. It calms. Trust speaks softly but carries strength. When you communicate with honesty, people might not always agree with you, but they'll respect you. Because deep down, everyone values truth over comfort. You can't fake consistency. You can't fake calm. You can't fake care. These are the languages trust understands best. To speak the language of trust, slow down. Don't rush to convince. Don't force approval. Be steady. Speak less. Mean more. Show integrity in your timing, kindness in your tone, and respect in your silence. Sometimes trust grows not from what you say, but from what you refuse to say. Keeping someone's confidence, not spreading what isn't yours to share, not exposing someone's weakness. These are quiet acts of loyalty, and loyalty is the purest form of communication. It says, I choose respect even when no one is watching. That's what builds trust that lasts. When people know you protect what's private, they give you what's personal. When they know you won't betray emotion, they show you their truth. And that's when connection becomes unconditional. Trust is built moment by moment, in honesty, in patience, in presence. It's a slow rhythm, but a powerful one. Every I'll be there you honor. Every I understand you mean. Every silence you hold with care adds to the invisible bridge between hearts. That bridge, that's trust. It doesn't need decoration. It needs maintenance. You keep it strong by staying true, by staying human, by staying kind. The language of trust is universal. It doesn't belong to any culture, any accent, any background. It's the language of the soul. Simple, silent, sincere. And once you learn to speak it, you can reach anyone, anywhere. Because in the end, communication isn't just about expression, it's about connection. And connection, without trust, is just noise. Trust makes words meaningful. It makes relationships strong. It makes understanding real. That's why the smartest people in the world don't speak louder. They speak truer. They don't try to impress. They try to connect. They don't demand belief. They earn it. That's how trust sounds. Calm, honest, grounded. It's the voice that doesn't shout, but still reaches hearts. And that's the language that endures long after words are forgotten.